Hi everyone. Today I'm with Joe Pine. Now, Joe, it's fair to say, kicked off the movement for customer experiences with his seminal article, Welcome to the Experience Economy, in Harvard Business Review. I think it was in the late 90s, 1997, 1998. And also the book, The Experience Economy with James Gilmore. He's just releasing this year as well an update called Infinite Possibility, Creating Customer Value on the Digital Frontier. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to ask Joe a couple of questions on that. But first of all, Joe, maybe you just might introduce yourself, and then we'll kick off with how you see the future of customer experience. So first, Joe, maybe you just want to say a little bit about Strategic Horizons and about yourself.
Well, thanks, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I do have a technologist background. I actually have a Master's of Science in the Management of Technology from MIT. I spent my first 13 years in business at IBM, in fact. But then I left there in 1993 to form Strategic Horizons, which we describe as a thinking studio to help companies design and conceive new ways of adding value to their offerings. And so what I've been doing ever since, and starting with my first book on mass customization through the experience economy, authenticity, and now most recently infinite possibility, is to figure out what's going on in the world of business and develop frameworks that first describe what's going on and then prescribe what companies can do about it.
Okay. And in terms of the customer experience market, because this has been, I think you said it's been almost 20 years now, what is the current state of the market, would you say?
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, there's just this explosion of activity. You know, I first discovered, I always say I didn't invent it, I discovered what companies were doing. But I first discovered the experience economy in late 1993 or early 1994. And ever since then, I've been able to see what so many companies are doing to go beyond goods and services to creating engaging experiences for their customers. Yes. And what we talk about in the book that originally, with my partner Jim Gilmore, originally came out in 1999, is in fact that experiences are a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. So basically, we use goods as props and services as a stage to engage each and every person in an inherently personal way, and thereby create that memory that is the hallmark of the experience. And so you've seen, in fact, I noticed that last week, you may not know this, was a momentous anniversary. Last week on July 17th was the 60th anniversary of Disneyland.
Okay.
and experiences have always been around,
yes,
but something distinctly different happened at that point with the development of the world's first theme park. And so you've seen the rise of theme parks, of theme restaurants, of experiential retail, of boutique hotels, of focus on the patient experience in hospitals, on going beyond products and services to financial experiences in that industry and so forth, and even in telecommunications, the recognition that that as everything becomes commoditized, treated like a commodity, that the real reason that people are using telecommunication networks, particularly with their smartphone, is because of the experience that they have through that smartphone.
Yes. One thing I noticed, you spoke about the distinctness between experience
Yes.
and service. And this is something I think people get very confused with. What exactly is the difference between service and an experience?
Well, that's a great question. Is you think about services are basically intangible offerings. Goods are tangible, services are intangible, experiences are memorable, right? It's if you do not create a memory, then it has not risen to the level of an experience. And so you need to create that memory inside of people to truly understand that you have, in fact, engaged them. And where goods are standardized and services customized, experiences are inherently personal. No two people can have the same experience, because where does the experience actually happen? Inside of them. Goods and services are outside of people. Experiences are inside of people, where you reach inside of them and engage them in that inherently personal way and create that memory. And then where goods are inventoried after production and services are delivered on demand, experiences are revealed over a duration of time. It really is about time, that people view it as time well spent. As goods and services commoditize, what they want is time well saved. They want things in the easiest possible way, in the most convenient way, take the least possible time. But when it's an experience, that's where they want to take their time. They want it to be engaging over this duration of time. So you've got to have a level of dramatic structure to it. You've got to rise to a climax and come back down in order to be truly engaging and memorable. So that does, in fact, make experiences very distinct from services. They're not the same economic offering.
So the key, particularly the telcos industry, they love KPIs, key performance indicators. So for you, the measurement of that memory, that personal experience that means something to the consumer, is time well spent? Is that the key KPI for you?
Yeah, it's certainly one of them, and I would say it's the main one, is that do they view their interactions with you as time well spent? Most companies that have a contact center, so they're talking to people over the phone or increasingly in chat rooms and things like that, is that they view it as we want to spend as little time with the customer as possible. We want to get on the phone, we want to get off the phone, right? Get their question resolved if we can, but we got a productivity measure of how many people we talk to an hour or a day. Yes. And that's just wrong. I mean, if you view your business as an experience, that's wrong. If it's a service, okay, but if you view it as an experience where they want to view that as time well spent, then you need to take the time with them that it takes to create that experience and then to truly resolve the problem so they're not calling back again. Yesterday I was with a client that talked about the fact that they often have people that are calling back 6 times to get a question resolved because everybody's trying to get them off the phone as soon as possible, and they don't really dig deep enough to figure out what the issue is. You look at somebody like Zappos. Zappos is famous for their meaningful purpose of creating happiness. And one of the things they recognize is that you cannot create happiness over the phone if your job is to get rid of this person as soon as possible. Exactly. They spend whatever time it takes, and they actually celebrate every day the person who gets to spend the most time with the customer. And those customers are going to view that as time well spent.
One of the key questions I get is, what is the ROI of customer experience? Difficult question, but it seems to be a little bit of a blockage in the market sometimes. What is your answer to that question? Show me the ROI.
Well, right. Well, first, I gotta do a little differentiation there, right? You use the term customer experience.
Yep.
And when most people use that term, they're not talking what I'm talking about. They're not talking about experiences as a distinct economic offering. Not all, but when most people use the term customer experience, they talk about let's make our interactions with customers nice and easy and convenient. And those are all well and good, but those are service characteristics. Those are about time well saved. I mean, convenient is specifically about spending little time. Those are not characteristics of true experiences, which is, again, about being memorable, about being personal, and about revealing that experience over a duration of time where they view it as time well spent. But when you have those characteristics, you create this experience as a distinct economic offering, then it can in fact have great ROI, because you look at the value of the time that they spend with you. You look at the value of the intensity of the experience relative to mundane experiences, or mundane services, excuse me. You look at the value of the attention that they give you, that they actually are giving you their attention. And then again, that memory that lasts not just for days and weeks, but often for months and years with a great distinctive experience. And with that memory, what's going to happen? Well, then they're going to tell other people about it. And the word of mouth is going to expand your revenue. They're going to come back to you whenever they're in the market for something that you provide. And that's going to expand your revenue. It's going to decrease the churn that you have of people coming off your plans and going someplace else and so forth. And all of that is going to greatly increase the ROI, even if it's difficult to directly measure it. But I think there are ways to directly measure it by figuring out, dividing your customers into those that have had distinctive experiences and those that have had merely good service and those that have had poor service, and see what effect that you get from them over time.
So how can a company execute that? So if we came to you and said, we get experience now, we were doing service before, We get it's about value of time well spent and creating that memory. Now, what do we do? What's the process to actually design experiences? Because it's quite an open-ended thing.
Right, it is. So one is think about places that you have. And how do you turn those places into experiences? If you have retail outlets, are they merely merchandising outlets where you're trying to just pile it high and sell it fast? Or are they places where people can spend and be time we engage there with you? I'm thinking of many telephone operators like here in the U.S., both AT&T and Verizon, have created what they call experience stores. And these experience stores, the one I was in most recently was on Michigan Avenue in Chicago with the AT&T experience store. And there they have a number of things in there to engage you with the technology. The people there are trained to be able to, one, try and uncover your true needs, to spend time with you, to not view you as, well, if you're not going to buy something, then I got to go on to somebody else. Right? They spend that deep time with you, and they engage you there with various different experiences, including one I know that my kids loved was they had this little car experience. We have a simulated car ride in there to be able to see what that's like with, and how the phone can now be an expansive experience while you're riding or driving in a car, for example. They have latest technology, including looking at 3D printers and other things in there, various ways of controlling things with your smartphone and so forth. And it's all about engaging people with time. Yes. And so that's one thing, is to look at whatever places you have, how do we turn these from, again, mundane interactions into engaging encounters?
And does
two is...
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Right. So two then is every other interaction you have, whether it's over the phone or virtual over the web. Focus on turning those interactions into encounters. Focus on engaging people with them. Focus on surprise would be an interesting thing to do, is to say, how are we going to wow our customers and surprise them in some way? When something goes bad in particular, is a great opportunity to turn that around. And they'll tell so many more people when you turn around something, some poor service, some problem with their billing, some problem with service that they had on their phone and that. You turn that around, and then you're going to have very loyal customers. They're going to talk to other people about it. I would also recognize that the phone itself, right, is maybe a physical good, but it's an enabler of experiences. What people are looking for through that phone is an experience. Now, unfortunately, the network operator gets very little value out of that. It's all the other companies that are selling the apps and the videos and that sort of thing that are getting the value. But how can you do that too? How can you figure out how to have your own app represented on the home screen of their phone that engages them in how they go about using that phone and using the service that you provide? Would be something else that I would link at, is how do you yourself go up that next level of value from just providing phone service to the experience that people have through their phone.
Do you find it's difficult to get that message across in the market today when so many people kind of say experience is about a technology platform to make it easy or nice or a service? Is that message about experience being a little bit muddied at the moment? Do you find it difficult?
Well, it sort of depends. Now you got to recognize that people who call me are sort of self-selected themselves, that they're already interested in it. So I don't tend to get a lot of pushback on it because they've already said that. Now, but when I speak at general conferences and that sort of thing, is then you get a little more of that differentiation of why people are there. But when you make the case of the fact that goods and services are being commoditized and people are looking for experiences, almost everybody recognizes it in their own life. Look at your own life. Look at how much time you now spend with goods and services. Look at how you're saving your hard-earned money and your hard-earned time to spend on the experiences that you enjoy. I mean, one basic factor you can look at, I always love this example, is look at a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is some beans and water. And those beans are a true commodity. And if you look at the commodity price of coffee, and I'll say it in U.S. dollars and cents, and you can do the translation, but the price of coffee as a commodity is only 2 or 3 cents per cup. That's how much beans are in your cup. But if you take those beans and you grind them, roast them, package them, put them on a grocery store shelf, well, now you can get 5, 10, 15 cents per cup for the physical good. If you perform the service of brewing it for a customer in a vending machine, a corner diner, a kiosk, or bodega somewhere, now you get 50 cents, $1, $1.50, maybe $2 per cup of coffee. But surround the brewing of that coffee with the ambiance and theater of a Starbucks, a place where you enjoy spending your time, right, sipping that cup of coffee. And now you're spending $3, $4, $5.
Yes.
So you have one industry with 4 distinct levels of value depending on what business it thinks it's in. And I think that's the same for you. So notice that you do that in your own life, and there's no reason your customers themselves cannot recognize the difference between a commodity provider, one that's providing merely the goods, one that's providing good service, even great service, and one that provides a distinctive experience and the premium that people are willing to pay for that experience.
Now, that's a great explanation, and I also see that you're developing on the concept of customer experience with your new book, Infinite Possibility, Creating Customer Value on the Digital Frontier. Can you just explain a little bit about the key concepts in the book and how that fits with customer experience?
Sure. One of the things that I noticed since Jim and I came out with the Experience Economy originally in 1999 with an updated edition in 2011, is in that intervening time is the explosion of digital technology. The rise of the web, first of all, and then the smartphone, and then now the rise of virtual reality with things like Oculus Rift, with augmented reality on phones and devices like the Microsoft HoloLens and so forth. So the key is how do you handle this explosion of digital technology? And so what I did is I looked at all these different examples of what was going on, developed a framework that again describes what's going on and then prescribes what companies can do about it. And this framework actually comes from long work that I've done, in my spare time in studying cosmology. What physicists talk about is the fundamental dimensions of the universe, which of course are time, space, and matter. Mm-hmm. That's what the universe is: time, space, and matter. That's where all of our experience happens, is in time, space, and matter. Every experience we have is in a particular place in time. It's a particular physical space that we have, and involves all of the objects, the atoms that are around us. But what digital technology does is it allows us to turn each of those fundamental dimensions on their head. Mm-hmm. That you think about matter with digital technology is not about matter, about atoms. It's about bits.
Yeah.
It's not about material substances, but digital substances. And so what we can do, and what definitionally augmented reality is, for example, is when we have a reality-based experience in time, space, and matter, but then we overlay that with digital technology. We overlay that with bits that give us information about that experience that we're having, whether it's as simple as a virtual map that can show us the route and give us verbal directions on what direction we need to take, to overlaying reality, cinematic scenes that are there that look as if they're actually in that reality.
Yes.
So we can augment reality in that way. And so and I call that, no matter, right? So we go from matter to no matter, from atoms to bits, from material to digital substances. So in the same way, if there's matter, no matter, there must be space and no space. Space is about the physical places that we inhabit, but no space is about virtual places, places that do not exist in reality. And that's where virtual reality comes in, that we can now have amazing and wondrous experiences in places that simply do not exist. We can do things that are impossible in the real world and do them in virtual worlds. Even this conversation that we're having right now is over a virtual medium. You're in your physical place in your office. I'm in my physical place in my office. But the actual experience is happening between us over the wire of the telephone and the internet. And so that's a distinctive thing that was not possible before.
So this is going to.
Then finally, you've got matter, no matter, space, and no space. You can have time and no time.
Yes.
This one's a little more difficult, but time is about the actual events that unspool before us moment by moment by moment. And no time is any way you get out of that. If you can go into the past, like in a living history museum, if you can envision the future, like the best consultants will let you do, if you can hyperlink time, like Facebook and LinkedIn and others, where you have this asynchronous conversation that happens, any way that you play with time, you get into flow, where all sense of real time falls away and you get to eliminate the tyranny of time, right? That's a way of playing with time. And digital technology enables all of this, so that we now have these 6, I'll call them experience design variables to play with. that whenever we want to design any experience, we can now think about not just time, space, and matter, but no time, no space, and no matter, about how to use digital technology to enhance those experiences and embrace it to create new and wondrous experiences that have never before been envisioned, engendered, nor encountered.
So it sounds like customer experience is going into infinite possibility for most organizations in terms of basically taking their products and services experiences as bits, which leads to almost any combination and any personalization possibilities, if you think of it as information.
Exactly, and that's why we called it infinite possibility, because
Yeah.
it truly is infinite possibility before us.
And who is doing this well, do you think, this new trend?
Well, there are so many companies doing it well. I mentioned already the Oculus Rift, which is for the first time with, virtual reality has been talked about for 20, 25 years, but now for the first time we're bringing it to the marketplace in a way that is cheap and effective and relatively cheap, and that actually does the job without making us nauseated, for example.
Yeah.
There's another company out there called Magic Leap that is working on what it calls cinematic reality, about being able to incorporate cinematic special effects like you see in the movies, but now bringing them to real life. You've got many companies that are embracing digital technology in so many different ways in what they're doing. All the companies that allow us to drop into virtual worlds. You've got new things. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the medical industry. Things like Vein Viewer, which is a way of looking at your veins in your skin and then projecting them over on top of the skin. So your skin, in fact, becomes a screen that allows doctors to have virtually X-ray vision into what's going on there. You've got people that are embracing digital technology into their products, like the Nest thermostat, like the Tesla automobile. When you think about the Tesla automobile, that now is where digital technology is more at the backbone than the physical thing. Where you've got this huge touch screen for all the controls of the display. I have a friend with a Tesla told me about how he every time he goes to his garage, he's got a lip in his garage, and he's got to stop the Tesla. He can raise it up, which is amazing in itself that it does that, and then put it in, and then when he pulls it back out again, he's got to stop and lower it down to be able to drive. And Tesla did this software upgrade where now via GPS it recognizes when he's coming to his driveway, raises it automatically, and then lowers it again when he comes out of it. Eliminating the sacrifice of having to do that himself. Which is, I think, an amazing thing. You think about all the people that have created. I don't know if you have this phenomenon in the UK, but in the US we call them man caves. Do you have that?
I've heard the term, but not so common here, though.
Right. Well, so man cave is where you create the best possible physical environment for the virtual experiences that you want to have, in particular viewing sports on all these different screens. So you create a place with 6 or 8 different screens where you've got all the physical environment of all of the wet bar and the snacks that you want to have and everything, which creates an amazing experiences for that. Gaming is another big thing to look at. The ability of the Kinect to actually look at your own body and use it as a controller for the physical experience. You've got companies like all the companies that are creating 3D printers, which is a matter of designing something virtually and then printing it out physically. So it's not digitization, it's atomization. So you're atomizing a virtual design, combining those variables that we talked about. TechShop is a company based in San Francisco that has all, not just 3D printers, but all the different types of atom hacking equipment that you can imagine, from CNC routers to water jets to laser cutters and printers and everything, and provides a membership offering where people can come in and make anything that they want. So you get that physicality of making things, but again, using virtual design elements to it. And I'll mention one other, which is Dassault Systems out of France. Dassault Systems has taken all of its software and combined it under the rubric of what they call the 3D Experience Platform. And the 3D Experience Platform allows people to design in 3D use those 3D models and move them immediately with no loss of clarity into their marketing materials and into their customers, places of business or as consumers, and really allows them to create entire experiences around the design of physical and increasingly virtual objects as well.
Fantastic. Really is a world of infinite possibility. What are you working on at the moment, Joe? Have you plans for your next book? What do you see as the key trend?
Yes. Well, yeah, two things. Is one, I'm starting to work on a sequel to mass customization. My first book came out over 20 years ago. I know so much more about it, and it is all wrapped up into experiences, because if you customize a good, you turn it into a service, and you customize a service, you turn it into an experience. And so I want to get that out there to show how companies can use that as a route up this progression of economic value, as we call it. Yes. And then I'm also working with my colleague Kim Korn on a book around a set of ideas that he's developed on how companies can thrive forever. So many companies fall into mediocrity and eventually fail. You can look at Nokia, for example, because they miss the trends, because they stop innovating the same way, or they ignore the innovations that they have, including the touch screen that Nokia innovated for a phone but then never brought to market until after the iPhone came out. Those sorts of things can be avoided if companies follow a simple set of 7 laws of managing, that we call them. Okay. And if you follow these laws of managing, then it will enable you to thrive forever. Because if you don't plan on thriving forever, then you plan on failing eventually.
Okay, Joe. Well, can you maybe just give some how people can contact you for any further information on?
Sure, absolutely. The best way is to go to our website, www.strategichorizons.com. My personal email is bjp2, as in B. Joseph Pine II, bjp2@strategichorizons.com. On there, you'll find all about our books, our ideas, our frameworks, our offerings. We do have an annual event we do every year called Think About. We move it around to different cities in the U.S., and it'll be in Atlanta this year, September 30th and October 1st. And then we also do an Experience Economy Expert certification class, where we immerse people for 4.5 days in all of the ideas and frameworks in the experience economy, and actually certify them as experts that they can then use it in their own business or with their own clients. We, in fact, now have over 200 certified experience economy experts around the world, and looking forward to adding more at our next public class, which will be coming up in the first week in August here.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, very many thanks for your time, and look forward to hopefully speaking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay.